Okay, well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out. And it seems like we're having our meetings only on sunny days. So welcome. Thanks for being here, and welcome to everybody on Zoom. First order of business is to declare a quorum, and I think we have 6 of us. A few are missing, so with Judy and Roger in jolly old England, so shall declare a quorum is here. As far as the secretary's report, we did circulate the minutes. Were there any comments or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Second.
And a second by Ken, so we'll consider the minutes adopted. Moving on to the treasurer's report. Clark, what do you have for us? Clark, you're muted. Clark? Okay, let's come back to Clark. So with that said, our first order of business is our guest speaker. And Ken, may I ask you to make the introduction?
Sure. Well, I'm really pleased to introduce Jake Hartvigsen. I've known Jake for, I think, between 15 and 20 years. I was chair of the Tamiami Trail Scenic Highway Committee, and that's how I met Jake. Anyway, Jake is the Associate Director of Marketing Community Partnerships, and remember that, community partnerships, that's why he's here, and branding for WEDU and WEDQ television stations. Jake's been in marketing for about 30 years. He's a graduate of Pineview High School here in Sarasota. He has a double major for his bachelor's degree in political science and English. He has a master's in English from Colorado State University of Fort Collins, which I love. And he has an MBA from the University of South Florida. So he's been in marketing for a long time. I met him when he was at New College, but he had his own consulting company. He worked for a international travel company. So he has a lot of experience in marketing, and he knows Sarasota really well. He was involved in the Visit Sarasota film. And tell them the story about the postcard when it comes time to talk about it, because that was really funny. Jake and I had a conversation about a year ago. Yeah, we had lunch about a year ago. We talked about programming ideas for WEDU, and the idea is to become more engaged in helping them finding programming ideas for downtown Sarasota, and to engage downtown Sarasota more with the television station that's programming. So Jake, it's yours.
Well, thank you, Ken. Can those on Zoom, can you hear me? Do I need to be muted? Okay, so now you can hear me? Okay, that sounds good.
Yes.
Oh, see, here's.
No, here's muted, I'm sorry.
There we go. If everybody can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second here. There we go. Well, so thank you, Ken. I appreciate the introduction. And as Ken said, I'm Jake Hartvigsen with WEDU, the local PBS station. I send my regrets because typically it would be Paul Grove, who is our CEO, who likes to get out in the community and give these presentations. But unfortunately, he wasn't available today, so you get the second guy. So I apologize for that, but I'll try to make up for it as we go forward here. I want to spend about 20 minutes of time and just kind of take you through, who we are at WEDU. And I thought that what a good way to start is that we are a TV station. So let me play you a little bit of a clip that will give you an overview about WEDU, and we'll talk about how important Sarasota is to our market.
that lets you mute the TV and use his sound out of his PC. But you'd have to go and mute the TV.
So we're not gonna be able to.
Well,
I can mute it. I can mute it.
There we go.
There is no parallel for this whole lecture. The military assault in Ukraine is underway. They found should concern us all. We watched Tampa Bay transform into Champa Bay.
It makes life on Earth possible.
There's no other place where any of these films could have been made than on PBS.
What a beautiful.
Who serves our community? Connecting more than 2 million homes and more than 5 million viewers.
Sesame Street.
Community owned and member supported.
I'm so thrilled to be here at the Be More Awards.
What?
Serving West Central Florida for more than 60 years. Who serves our community? We do. WEDU, your public media station.
So maybe let's try it here. If we keep me, we're gonna get this feedback, but maybe if
It's straight coming out of there, so. Let's see more video to show.
I do have a couple more videos as we go. So are we gonna get the feedback? Or can you? There we go. Okay. Yikes. Where are? There. Whoop. Better? No.
Broadcast out of the sound out of the TV. I think it's the second one down.
That work?
Seems to.
Does that work? Can folks online hear me?
Yes, it's much better now.
Maybe can you unmute?
So this, I think, is,
No, if he's sending the sound and his voice through the laptop, then you want the TV microphone muted. Stay muted.
okay.
So touch the screen, Dave.
All right, sorry about that. Get it all worked out. So what I'd like to ask each of you is, how are each of you watching TV these days? Who watches through cable, like Comcast or Xfinity or something? Okay. Who watches through something like Hulu or through one of the streaming services? Okay, so about half and half. Who doesn't watch TV? There's a couple here who don't watch TV. Well, one of the things that WEDU is doing is adapting to the changing media landscape. So I'll talk a little bit about that. But we were founded in 1958. That's actually about 8 years before PBS became a national program that was underwritten by the government. And we were established in 1958 as a community channel that specialized in education. That's where we get our call letters, WEDU. We serve 16 counties throughout the Gulf Coast and West Central Florida. So if you think about every place from Brooksville to south of Port Charlotte, swinging out through Arcadia and Lakeland and so forth to the outskirts of Orlando, that's our coverage area. But our big areas are right through here. So Tampa, Sarasota, or St. Petersburg, and Bradenton are far and away our biggest markets. And Sarasota, one of the reasons Ken mentioned, that I was brought on board, I'm based right here, I grew up here, I know Sarasota, is, we really do. Sarasota is very, very important to us. We want to be members of this community and we want to represent the community. We want to tell stories from the community. Sarasota makes up about 35% of our support basis. So how many channels do we have? Ken mentioned 2 of them, but do you think who thinks that we have only 2? Or who'd like to take a guess as how many we have?
I'm gonna say 8.
Ooh, 8. Well, we might have 8 in the near future. Not quite up to that yet. We've got 6 channels, really. So we do have WEDU, and we've got WEDQ. Those were the stations that Ken mentioned. And WEDQ, for those of you who've been in the area for some time, you may remember that WUSF, that a lot of you may listen to NPR radio on WUSF, they used to have a PBS TV station as well. They decided to get out of the TV business back about 6 or 7 years ago. We picked up that license. So we now have WEDQ. We also have World, which specializes, well, actually, I'll go through these, but it specializes, like it sounds, in world news and media. WEDU is our sort of flagship that has all the PBS programming. World sponsors is in world programming. We've got the Florida channel, which is the channel where you can find everything related to state government, to the legislature, to other things that are going on around the state, is through the Florida channel. We have WEDQ, which I mentioned. We've got, of course, PBS Kids. So any of you who, have had kids as they were growing up and watched PBS, or who have grandkids that now watch them and so forth, we have PBS Kids. And then we have a network that's called Create. This is sort of a do-it-yourself sort of network. You'll find everything on there with the cooking shows and those sorts of things. So we've got 6 channels altogether. We also are now getting into live streaming. And so you're able to go to our website and you can live stream everything that is happening on WEDU. You can watch online on your computer in addition to other ways. We also have a PBS Kids streaming live stream that is available. And this actually nationwide now, live streaming for, as you can imagine, for younger audiences and families is really taking over from cable TV, because that's where, you want to go to a restaurant. I saw Clark was listed as Clark's iPad. And of course, anybody that's had, taken the grandkids out or the kids out, you take the iPad, and that's how they're sort of engaging when you're at restaurants and so forth. So there is that, our mission: educate, explore, engage. I told you about educate, explore. The thing that we want to do, and a difference certainly between WEDU and between PBS stations in general versus other television outlets locally. So if you think about, our brothers at ABC7, well, they're more about sort of, news programming, immediacy of what can happen. What WEDU and what PBS does, we take a deeper dive. So I do have people sometimes say, oh, can I send you a press release about what we have going on next week? Well, you can send me that press release, but we're not going to be able to cover that, because now what we might be able to do is go to that event or what's happening and find a storyline that then we want to develop over the next several months, and that becomes part of our programming. And engage. And engagement, of course, is one of the reasons that I'm here today. Some of the things about PBS that I think are very noteworthy and interesting, and that also separate us from other media outlets and media partners, is that, not sure what happened there. There we go. Is that PBS is actually the #1 most trusted institution in the US. #1 most trusted as far as news and public affairs, #1 most trusted as far as education. The only organizations at all, or the only entities within the United States that beat out PBS as far as value. Why is it doing this? Value for tax dollars. Let's see if we can. No, let's go back. I'm going to go back. Value for tax dollars. All right. Well, the only two organizations that beat us out as far as value for tax dollars is the military and groups like the FDA and so forth that are looking after our food supply. PBS comes in number 3 on that list of the most trusted institutions in the country. Huh. Wow. Okay. Is it on the key in there? So it's okay on the Zoom, so, okay. Well, I told you that we are the #1 most trusted educational brand, so with our PBS kids, you know, so if you think about our competitors anymore, you've got the Disney Channel, you've got Nickelodeon and so forth, and yet 83% of families say that PBS is the most valued source of information, educational information, learning information for their children. That compares to 40% for Nick Jr., for 30% for Disney. All right, what is going on here? Okay. Well, let's get in. Maybe it'll adjust itself as we go. We were rolling along fine. So, so I was just going to mention that we have 2 apps for kids as well. We have both a video app and a gaming app. So if you do have kids or grandkids that are out there, go to PBS Kids, download those apps. They're free on your phone. What else are we in this community? So for the community, we're the community storyteller. Ken mentioned the Sarasota experience. We produce about 30% of our own programming. So you're very familiar, I'm sure, with all the national programming that's out there, whether it's Masterpiece Theater, whether it's Nova, whether it's Nature, whether it's Antiques Roadshow, but we actually produce also about 30% of our own programming. And that programming, well, at least it landed on Greater Sarasota as opposed to some of the other ones here. But we produce series like our Public Square series. We had a recent special there that was on sea level rise and on climate change that was funded in part through a grant from the Bransick Foundation. We also have a series that we ran back about 1.5 years ago and that we continue to run repeat episodes of called Can We Talk? And many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with some of the anti-Semitic letters and so forth, and some of the graffiti that's been left on some of the temples and so forth in the area. We brought together folks from throughout the community to talk about anti-Semitism and what we can do to try to address those things. We have a monthly program that's called Arts Plus. Arts Plus looks at the arts and culture throughout the greater Tampa Bay area. It was a program that was actually originated by WEDU. It has one segment every week that is on the greater Tampa Bay area in arts and culture. And then we partner with other PBS stations around the country, and they will each have one other segment that is on there as well. This one, though, here, Greater Sarasota, is one that I really want all of you to know about. How many of you have watched Greater Sarasota before? Have you seen Greater Sarasota?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have. And I do like the programming. I'm kind of new to it, but I don't know if it is a new program.
So Greater Sarasota was founded 3 years ago, in part, well, at least it's our Emmy too, was founded 3 years ago through a partnership that we set up with the Community Foundation of Sarasota County. It is exclusively about arts and culture in Sarasota. It just wrapped its 3rd season. We've won 4 Emmy Awards from this show. It's a fantastic show. What it is that each of the original episodes is an 8 to 10 minute segment on everything. The most recent one, if you go to our website or if you look it up online, was on Rise and Knives. And if those of you are familiar with the ice cream store downtown that works with young people who have disabilities, well, the way that those young people with disabilities have learned how to be able to interact with customers and to overcome some of their fears is through a partnership with Ringling College of Art and Design and their AI folks. And so we did a whole segment that was on that program for Greater Sarasota. It's a fantastic episode. I encourage all of you to take a look. And each year what we do is there are 5 episodes to that. And at the end of the 5th episode, we then compile them and bring them together. So in a few weeks here, I think it's around the middle of July, we will have an episode that is that is the compilation of all of the episodes during the year. I've mentioned Arts Plus, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip through this. So this one, we're going to have to figure out how we get this to play in the right size, because the Sarasota experience is one of the things that I've mentioned a couple of times here. That was originally going to be, we had an idea, and it was my former colleague, Michael Miner, whom I worked with for many years. He worked with WEDU for about 20 years. Unfortunately, he passed away during the spring, but this was his sort of vision, was to have a piece that was going to be strictly about Sarasota. Originally, it was going to be for the centennial, but then the centennial happened right in the middle of COVID. All of those events got, they just, got canceled. And so we re-envisioned it. So what we came up with was an hour-long documentary about Sarasota's past, present, and future. We still looked at all those things that historically had happened, but we also looked at the involving Sarasota and what it really means to be a community. And we had the premiere at the Sarasota Opera House. How many of you attended it? At least one. We had a premiere at the Sarasota Opera House. We had 1,200 folks that were there. I'm going to see if this will play. Hopefully it will. You'll be able to see the whole thing.
The Sarasota Experience is a WEDU PBS original documentary featured.
Why is it? I'm going to try something for a second. I'm going to stop sharing and then start sharing my screen. I'm going to see if this will come up, because this is actually something I really would like for you guys to be able to see. Yay.
About the past, the present, and the future of Sarasota while exploring what creates a thriving community. Being a local, this was everything I ever wanted to do, was make a film about the town that I love, the town that I grew up in.
We wouldn't have been able to do it without the support of so many people. Everyone got behind it and they were excited.
What's your favorite item?
I would describe the Sarasota Experience as a look into a little beach town, not so little anymore. You can see the ups and downs and how similar we are to other communities in all parts of the country. For me, the biggest thing that I learned was how history just repeats itself. We have a lot of history makers living right now in our time frame that we interviewed, that are living amongst us and walking amongst us, that we'll be talking about in 100 years.
By creating this documentary that gets at the heart of the issues of things in Sarasota, we're really getting to shed light on things that I want to show how beautiful Sarasota is and our potential.
Partners for the Sarasota Experience were Visit Sarasota, the Barancic Foundation, One Stop Housing, and lots of individual support. It was really a fantastic show. One thing Ken said that I should mention this, I'll mention it very fast. You might have noticed the postcard that was in there when you watch the Sarasota experience, I encourage you, you can go to our website and you can view the Sarasota experience. If you have WEDU passport, you can view Sarasota experience from there. It also is regularly appearing on WEDU and WEDQ. My family, before I moved here, was from a teeny little town of Maquoketa, Iowa. You've all heard of Maquoketa, Iowa, right? Yeah. So my wife and I are watching at the Sarasota Opera House. We're watching, and on the back of one of these postcards, it turns over and it is addressed to someone in Maquoketa, Iowa. We about fell out of our seats at that point. Then it starts scrolling in with the text, and it reads the signature line, and the narrator actually messed it up, said that it was E and Helen. Well, right away, my wife and I were like, no, that's F and Helen. That was my grandmother who 80 years ago wrote this postcard, and it just somehow made it in there. Nobody knew that this had anything to do with me as it was being made. So it's my fun little story about this. Well, it looks like we're back again to this, but we have also, I mentioned multimedia. So in addition to our TV stations, we have a monthly magazine called Premier Magazine that comes out. Premier Magazine is, it lists everything that is going on with the station. It has updates on upcoming programming. It has little blurbs about shows. And it has a monthly schedule. You know, I was not a big believer that maybe people did a lot of reading of magazines anymore, but our printer messed up a couple of months ago. It typically comes out the week before the beginning of the month. It came out instead 3 days into the month, and our phones were ringing off the hook. Where is my Premier Magazine? So you get Premier Magazine if you are a $60 plus subscriber to WEDU. You know, I mentioned before as well, I guess that the Zoom folks can see this, but that we also are available not only through cable TV anymore, but to anything, whether you've got Apple TV, whether you have Roku, whether you have Hulu and so forth. So meeting those changing needs of the community and the changing needs of what is expected of us is what we do. And WEDU Passport is available also on your cell phone. You can go download the app for WEDU for free. Passport is available for subscribers at the $60 plus level. And what that enables you to do is you can go back and you can binge, you can watch the Hemingway series by Ken Burns. Anything that we have had aired, you're able to see on there. Education, I talked some about, you know, the different ways that we make our station available to kids. That's everything from on air to online to one of our most exciting things, which is PBS Learning Media. And PBS Learning Media is something where teachers, parents, children can all go. It's available online through WEDU, and there are standards-based learning activities that are on there, videos that are on there. It's things that a lot of teachers use in their classrooms that they're able to go, but it's also a great resource for families and for children at home. I'm not going to play this video because I think we'll have to shut it down again and do that. But I am going to talk a little bit about that we're also are involved in saving lives. And what I mean by that PBS and WEDU are involved in saving lives is through a partnership that involves all of the different PBS and NPR outlets throughout the state. We're a part of the emergency network, and through the Florida channel, which I mentioned earlier is one of our stations, we during storm events are hooked in to what's happening with the emergency operations up in Tallahassee. You can watch live time. And even if your cable is out, this is something that you can get through antenna. It is something that you can get on your cell phone. We also have a storms app. And if you go to Florida Storms, you can download that app. It's for free. And it will give you all of that same sort of information for free right on your cell phone. So it's another way that we are involved in the community. I had a thing. Yeah, so I'm going to just skip through this. I do want to talk about, so lastly, I just want to talk a little bit about where our support comes from, because a question that comes up often when I speak with groups or when any of us speak with groups is, where does your funding come from? Isn't PBS primarily funded through the federal government? Who thinks that our station is primarily funded through the federal government? Okay. 70% of the funding that we receive comes from viewers like you, as the saying goes. Less than 11% of our funding comes through government grants, and PBS stations around the country receive approximately $1 for every US citizen. So there are approximately 400 million people that now, 380 million people. We have a $400 million budget. That's divided by every NPR and PBS station in the country. So PBS stations, NPR stations, we as an entire group throughout the United States receive less money than is dedicated to the military bands in the United States. They get about $500 million to use. I think that there are 12 of them. So, but that's, it often comes up, and it's one of the things that we like to talk about. We also are good stewards of our money. 51 cents of every dollar that we earn goes towards programming and production. And what that means, this is the Charity Navigator. For 7 consecutive years, we've been given a 4-star rating by Charity Navigator, and that is the absolute gold standard of nonprofits and charities. So that's all that I have. I really do appreciate it. I'm sorry that we had a few snafus here as far as the visuals. Hopefully I was able to kind of keep you informed, at least by talking through them. But any quick questions, Ken?
Jake, DSCA has events, has seminars and training sessions, for want of a better term, through the year. For example, one recently was about insurance, property insurance. Are those events that might provide programming information or ideas for you? Would you be interested in covering them?
Well, I go back, and I think that, again, I go back to what I started out with and saying that a difference between our type of coverage and some of the other outlets is that, we don't have a news team that can show up and, bring a camera out and say live from, from the Broadway Promenade, that sort of thing. But I do encourage you, and I did leave some materials over here. I'll leave some of my cards as well. By all means, if you have something that is going on, please email me about it, call me about it, text me about it. And, we will look into it, because what it could lead to is that maybe there's something in that talk about insurance and about sort of the changing landscape for insurance as it affects condominiums in Southwest Florida. That could be something then that our producers might latch onto as part of a bigger or different story. So it's probably not going to be the specific seminar, but there may be things that come out of that by having one of our people attend that do lead to stories.
Are you planning to grow programming in Sarasota itself?
So we do, as I say, already have some robust programming that is in Sarasota. Our Greater Sarasota series right now, we're in conversations with the Community Foundation. I think that that's going to become a show that has, because of its success, has spun off some other shows that we've got. Greater Ybor City, we're going to have Greater St. Petersburg, Greater Lakeland. Those shows are not specifically focused on the arts and culture. It was just that the grant that was from the Community Foundation was linked to a funder that was specifically interested in that. That is sunsetting. So now we're in talks with the Community Foundation. I think the Greater Sarasota is going to become much more of a community program. We do have our shows like the Sarasota Experience. We've got another program that does have a Sarasota-oriented theme. I can't really talk about it yet, but that has come up in meetings that I think is going to be coming out. We're going to work with the same producer, filmmaker that we worked with on the Sarasota Experience for that. So I see that growing. If Paul Grover here, he would call it hyper local journalism. We're very much so interested in digging down deep in what makes our communities important and thrive.
Out of curiosity too, on the programs, they're excellent. But it just seems like there's so few, they're very short. How long does it take you to produce one of the programs? And are you you're looking to amp that up, and I don't, where do you get your ideas from?
So we actually have, so Sarasota Experience, for instance, is short. Those original little pieces are 8 to 10 minutes. Now that's reflecting the changing landscape. With streaming, you see more shows that are a little bit shorter in basis, and then that's why we then combine them together. But we actually have producers that live right here year round in Sarasota. One of them is named Farrah Vickery. And so she's all the time out in the community and looking for story ideas and so forth. I'm here. I work out of the Senior Friendship Center. I've got an office at Senior Friendship Center. So I'm out in the community. So, and that's again, where I invite all of you, let me be your ambassador. If you have ideas, whether it is about something that's going on with the Downtown Sarasota Condo Association, or whether it is something that you think it would just be of interest to people in this area, please, I'll leave some cards back here, pick one up. And let me know, and we will look into it. So we're developing all the time.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome to stick around, or probably not.
So I would, but I do apologize. I have to jump out. My son is a part of the HT Preps celebration that's at the Van Wezel tonight. So I'm going to go home. I'm going to change out of my suit and I'm going to change into more athletic sort of attire. So thank you. Oh, I need to stop here.
And Jamie, for the next, for our introduction of our new associates, do you want to, could you?
Yeah.
There you go. All right, are we back with sound on Zoom? Hello?
Yes. Yeah, I
Okay,
hear you,
great.
David.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Treasurer's report. But Clark is on Zoom and it looks like he's gone. He looks like he's gone. So we're gonna have to forego that for the moment and maybe he'll come back. But as far as our new associate members, would you?
Yeah.
Like, I see two folks here.
Okay, and I know, it's building link or smart protection.
Yeah.
I know Bruce is here. Hello.
Hi.
Come on up, Dennis. Introduce your company, yeah, just, make sure everybody can see on Zoom and
That's
introduce
just
your.
what they wanted to see.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your.
Okay, name's Dennis McSweeney. The company is Smart Water Protection, founded about 2 years ago. Come from commercial risk management and noticed when that little thing called COVID hit that the incidence of water damage to multi-story, multi-family properties was skyrocketing because for so many people not here, it would go down 5-10 levels instead of your neighbor downstairs telling you you had a problem. So I went and thought I'd be proactive. I'm not a real reactive kind of person. Started Smart Water Protection. We offer a solution to the problem, which is a system that will detect and automatically shut off the water when there is a leak. We can customize it to buildings and situations, and it just made sense to me, so I'm bringing it to you guys.
Awesome.
Great, welcome.
Thanks.
Thank
Appreciate it.
And Mindy.
Mindy,
come on
talk about
up.
something, a really fun new
Yes.
member.
And
Tell
I
us.
know you've been there, and
I've
I've been there too, so I
twice.
can tell you all
I
about it.
recommend.
Where do you want to? Come on up to the front so the people on Zoom can see you.
I don't know where the camera is.
It's a fisheye, just, yeah.
My name is Mindy Kaufman. I'm actually traditionally in commercial real estate, so I would like your card because that sounds really interesting. But I'm not here to talk about real estate today. I'm here to talk about booze, ice house, and dog bar. So for those of you who have heard about it, we're just down, we're in the old ice house on 10th Street. Actually, I was just there, and for some reason I had in my head it was downtown. I went all the way downtown, and I realized that we're right next door. So what is it? It's sort of a unique destination for Sarasota. We're a restaurant bar and off-leash dog park. So for those who love animals, love dogs, you can bring your cat if you want to, but most people bring a dog. The dog has to be a member, has to have their vaccinations, be spayed and neutered, has to meet certain requirements, but then you're welcome to bring your dog, and we have both an indoor and an outdoor off-leash dog parks. And it's just a lot of fun. You can just come there. You can also come there absolutely without a dog if you're a dog lover and you don't have a dog at home. Just come there, grab a beer, and just enjoy everybody else's dog. It's really fun. We're also a restaurant, so we have great food, right? I mean,
Yes, really good pizza.
It's not an afterthought. We're not like a bowling alley that has like the greasy burger. The restaurant is really good. Dave Grammer from Goodfellas on Clark is our restaurant manager, and he's really taken everything, sort of elevated it. We have wood-fired pizzas that are really excellent, great burgers, really fresh salads. Our cocktails are really interesting cocktails. So I would invite everybody. I don't have any membership brochures, but I did bring, this is a copy of our menu. And we're offering through June, the code is DSCA, clever of me. 15% off your tab through June. So we'd love for everybody to come in and have a drink. This is for eating in only. If you want to, if you'd like to join with your dog, again, you'd have to go to our website, Booze Dog Bar, BOOS, boozedogbar.com. There's membership information on there. We're running introductory specials right now. I think that's it.
Great,
I have
thank
to
you.
say, they've kind of thought of everything at Booze. They have like a little section that's not really, like, if you want to be dog free, you can just sit in that section. There's no dogs. If you want to sit inside and watch the dogs play or bring your own dogs, you can do that. If you want to go outside, there's an outdoor area for the dogs to play.
Yeah, actually,
they
I
really
should
just
clarify, you know, that the dogs are not allowed in the strict indoor restaurant. So if you want to eat with your dog, you have to eat on the doggy dining deck outside. We do have a stay and play service. So if you've had a long day, but you need to walk your dog and feel like walking your dog, you can take them to Booze. We'll take your dog, run your dog around while you sit inside and enjoy a nice relaxing meal. So hopefully we have thought of just about everything, but.
We
So I
have
will-
a
I
resident
will be
here
great.
who works there.
Oh, yeah?
In the, taking care of the dogs.
Oh, cool. Well, that's the paw leash.
The paw leash. Yes,
Yes.
yes, they have little shirts.
Okay,
Everything.
all right, thanks, Mindy. Well,
I'll just leave these.
okay,
Thank you,
great.
guys.
Okay, and then we have our third,
And I don't think, are they here, building link?
building link. No,
Okay.
so I think we need a collective 3-4 motion to accept these folks as new associate members. Is there a?
So moved.
Ken is moving, and it looks like Bob's trying to second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome, everybody. Good. Moving along, the next item is our community survey, which was just released day before yesterday, I think. Bob, between you and Patrick, you have an
Yes,
update?
well, actually, a couple things. One, a little bit of a housekeeping issue. Last year, we financed it to $3,000. This year, we had approved $2,000. And I'd like to recommend that we increase $3,000 again this year. The person who's going to be doing a lot of the follow-up and who was very instrumental in helping people fill it out, or people who had issues, it's just felt that she would be spending as much time this year as she did the last time. And just based on some of the communications we've gotten back very early, it looks like she'll be pretty busy. So I'd like to recommend, without objection, I hope, that we increase the budget for the survey to get it completed to $3,000.
Was that a recommendation of the committee?
I'm just making the recommendation. I believe the committee would agree with that.
I'm hearing about this for the first time. I mean, half an hour ago or something like that.
No, there wasn't even.
Yeah, the committee discussed it, and Bob was supposed to talk to Sheila to find out if she would accept the 2,000. Apparently, she felt that, no, she should be spending as much time.
Yeah. You know, one of the things we considered is that perhaps an hourly stipend up to $2,000. But at the end of the day, you know, do I have to keep a log of traveling up and down the trail, going here, going there? calling back, going back, that sort of thing. So,
Okay, and last, we did the survey 2 years ago, and our success rate was about 80%.
82%, I believe.
Okay, and our goal is at least that.
At least that, exactly. And I think Patrick can answer how many people have already opened the survey.
Yeah, there's at least 7 that have opened it, started a survey response. I mean, some are still in the process, many are looking at that. The email that went out on Monday, over 50% have opened it. At least, I think we had about 10 click-through links to the survey. And then we have made available a complete list of the questions, and I sent that around as a draft. And with, you're okay, I'll send that out.
And there's a PDF version of it, which actually is helpful because I filled it out for Broadway Promenade, and I forwarded it to the rest of the board. And then they had issues trying to open up the following pages. It's typical of, something that's Survey Monkey. So at the end of the day, I think we have all our ducks lined up reasonably well, and I'm anticipating that we're going to get a good response, particularly considering all the issues that we have with, particularly things like wind insurance, which is just knocking people's socks off, frankly, this year.
Any discussion?
Not on the motion.
Okay, and no, is there a motion to?
I'd like to make a motion that we increase the budget for the survey to $3,000, up from $2,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, I'm going to defer to Bob on this. And, okay, all right. All say aye? Okay,
Aye.
unanimous, okay. Moving ahead, Patrick, can you, if, and what I have, what you will recognize is this was in your advance pack. This was called a mind map. And I originally did this, I believe, in January. And it's an attempt on one page to identify the key DSCA initiatives in a one pager. And identify, you'll see the yellow highlighted as what is my feeling, and wanted some discussion. I've heard from a couple of you, some of our higher priority items. So just as an example, you will see on the left-hand quadrant, the October workshop planning. Of course, that's a very high priority. Moving down, we have the EDCM, Engineering Design Criteria Manual, that is going to have generational consequences that we want to become involved in. We're also hoping to hold Kathy's idea, educational event for our member reps. On the top, we have the police chief has approached us with an interest in what I'll call a community watch kind of program of volunteer residents who would walk the neighborhoods and report any potentially troubling or illegal activity. So we're working with the police and seeing if we can pilot that kind of program. Moving down, community workshops. It's well known that the city is moving ahead with increased density for attainable housing. DSCA and CCNA are very much in favor, and we've passed a motion here of asking for community workshops rather than administrative approval, or in concert with administrative approval, when densities go up. So think about it, if densities go up 4 times, the number of people goes up 4 times. And so Lucia Panica and I have talked about that. She's open to meeting with us to discuss that, and that's something really coming up. Another important initiative that we want to be involved in that I don't know if it's getting enough attention is the restaurants, bars, and nightclubs zoning text amendments. There's actually a Zoom initial kickoff meeting that Steve Kober is hosting tomorrow evening. We also have a DSCA downtown specific meeting that we are holding on the 22nd. So this is important because it really is, it also deals with noise and those kinds of issues. We've got rooftop bars are becoming increasingly popular, restaurants. And how do we, as a community, thread the needle between vibrancy and not utter chaos? So that's another important thing we're working on. The member survey you see, and of course, the finance is part of making sure we have the money to run the ship here. I hope, is there any discussion? Did I miss anything? Is there, we tend to have a consensus that these are the things that we want to focus on or change. I try to, in doing this, limit the number of, quote, high priorities to a reasonable number. If you come up with 12 high priority items, it's essentially no priority items because you stagnate yourself.
David, I think what's really significant about that chart is that it documents for people our position, our policy with respect to development issues. And that is that we prefer to look at the zoning code rather than individual projects. And that's really important because that's where you get change on those issues that are in that chart.
I would agree with that. And the other thing is we have this, I don't know how you're comfortable you are sharing this out. I mean, I get a sense that there are people that are more than ever pressuring, where does DSCA stand on this? What are you doing about that? And this really does have a good way to outline what we're doing and where we're at.
And let me just say what is not on this list is, at least for now, taking a position on 1260 Palm.
Right, exactly.
Right? It is not, doesn't mean, you know, it comes back before the DRC on the 21st, right?
Right, but I think baked into this, you have community workshops. I mean, something like you're saying, you've got to get to the core of the problem, not to be single issue.
Well, you know, I think, you know, particularly this Palm project, individual condo associations, Broadway Promenade, for instance, you know, we had a petition that was brought to us by Bay Plaza, I believe. And, you know, we filled up 4 or 5 pages of signatures, so people really had strong feelings about it. So the individual condo associations can take a position.
Exactly.
But not this guy. I think approaching it from the zoning approach is a more sensible one for us.
I also think the item you prioritize is the member rep training, is where we give a toolbox to each of our member condos. You have issues, here is resources of how you can best address that. Here's where our role is, but here are the things, you know, the committees to look into, the contact names. This is how you find out where you're fit. And then what we're doing not only with community workshops, but potentially changes coming out of development services where they're actively listening for neighborhood input during the process. So those are some changes that are occurring, as you said, by working kind of at the base level, both with the code and with the people, to say, how can we do things more efficiently? At the same time, saving developers, saving staff, some of what David, you referred to as the friction cost. So,
lowest cost solution. Okay, so how do we want to leave this? I'd like a broad consensus that we kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of accept this. I think it's an evolving document. Is there any sensitivity? I mean, I've shared it with people in the room to sharing this. I mean,
Nothing confidential about
yeah.
it.
I
It's strategic. It's really strategic, and that's what I like about it.
okay. I do have a one-on-one with Marlon tomorrow, so unless anybody has an objection, I see no reason to share it with him. And if he or members of the commission have any input or comments on the prioritization, love to hear them. But again, we know people aren't readers today. Everybody in this room are busy people, and this is a way to try and distill in a one-pager what we're up to. So, and any of our member reps, you know, later on after the meeting, I'd be happy to talk to you about any of these. Okay, moving along, the next item is FY24 budgeting. I did put in your advance pack, you know, some information about assessed valuations, you know, being up roughly 13%, and shared with you some of the real estate sales trends citywide, which are kind of shocking actually, as far as median sales price year to date, citywide up something like almost 20%, and downtown continuing to grow. A concern Marlon and others know I personally have is the visibility to the budgeting process. We're here in June. There was one budget workshop a couple months ago, but there's not another workshop until the third week of July. And as we know, members of the public may not speak at workshops. So I'm going to do some digging and see what I can find. My personal observation and opinion is the city's probably quite really good at maybe expense forecasting and capital thing, but on the revenue side, I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to do a better job on anticipating inflows of revenues, inflows of impact fees, inflows of TIF. We know we are in a rapid expansion period in the city, and the question is, what's that fine line in being fiscally responsible, being fair to our residents as far as increasing costs, but on the other hand, investing in the future, knowing that we have 3,000 more people likely to be living downtown in the coming 6 years, and probably citywide 5,000 or 6,000 in the next 6 or 7 years. So how do we plan for that? That's my speech on the budget. It's coming down. We won't have any particular visibility on that for another 5 weeks, as far as I know. Moving on, then on the city update, I did talk about the bars, restaurants, and nightclubs. A couple important things there. And then on the parklets, there's also, what is it? There's an event on it. On the 21st. And the city is looking for inputs on the street side, you know, the use of the sidewalk and those related things. So with the bars, restaurants, and nightclubs things, and this, I mean, and the EDCM.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot going on.
Again, it's one of those things where if we push this information out to, right now, I don't feel like we have a strong sense of reps in the individual condos. So if we can all do our part to push this information out, to try to get more people to attend these, to give the feedback, especially, I mean, I'm working with the Mark right now on getting people to participate.
Okay. Any comments?
I just strongly encourage our member reps to forward this on to their individual comments.
Okay, moving along, Ken, on arts and cultural.
Yeah, I think most people have been following what's been happening with our architectural selection committee. They had a series of 5 meetings. They had responses from 43 international organizations who are interested in designing a new performing arts hall for Sarasota. The committee was damned impressive in terms of winnowing through those 43 submissions and getting it down to 3, which they considered last week at the Van Wezel Grand Foyer. And they had presentations by Snowhead, which is a Norwegian American firm, Renzo Piano, which is an Italian firm, and Norman Foster, which is an English firm. And, was that? Was that a comment? They ranked those 3 firms, and the number 1 with a 3-to-1 vote came in as Renzo Piano, the Italian firm. And so negotiations will start with that between the foundation and that firm with respect to a contract for designing a new performing arts hall. They ranked the Norman Foster firm 4-0 second, and the Snowhead firm third, 4-0. So if the negotiations fail with the Renzo Piano firm, they'll move to the second-ranked firm, and then so forth. That's how that works. One other thing is we're trying to resume the tours of the Van Wezel Auditorium and Hall, and I'm working with the McClellan Park Neighborhood Association. They're interested in sending several people. It's going to be either the 20th or the 21st of June, the afternoon of the 20th or the 21st. We're limited to about 12 people on these tours, but if I have extra space, if anybody else is interested in attending one of those tours, just let me know and I'll add them to the list. And I'll let you know exactly when the tour will be as soon as we negotiate with the McClellan Park people about when they're able to go.
If you don't fill those positions, let us know, because I know that there are people.
Sure, will do. Will do.
What is the next steps then? After they secure someone, the negotiations are done, then the next step is?
The next step is to sign a contract.
Okay.
And let them begin their work to develop. But in the meantime, there are a series of 4 agreements that the foundation and the city commission is working on. They already have the partnership agreement. They extended the due date for the implementation agreement. That's November of 2024. So then there are 2 more agreements. There'll be an operating agreement, and 1 other agreement. Because the Sarasota Performing Arts Center will actually operate the new hall. And concurrently with that, the city commission is putting together a blue ribbon committee to decide what to do with the Van Wezel. And those applications are due by the 15th of this month to the city. And interviews are going on right now with the commissioners. Eric Arroyo has refused to interview anybody. Jennifer Ahern Koch is in Germany right now and will be there until the 25th. But I did manage to talk to her by phone yesterday. So that's ongoing, and that ad hoc committee will begin after the commission peak populates it in early July. That's it.
Okay. Moving on, Jamie, we have no report. We're working.
Meeting on Friday.
We're meeting on Friday
For our very first
for
meeting.
October event. And by the way, if those of you here have ideas for our workshop in October, focus areas, areas that would be of interest to you or people you know, please, we're open to lots of ideas. Okay. Green space, Patrick?
Just to bring up about the EDC, I know you put that on the screen quickly.
And could you just say a couple words about, generally speaking, what a EDCM is?
Well, first of all, the engineering design criteria manual is really the internal guidebook. We talk about zoning code, it's the guide for external. This is the internal that by how internal projects have to be constructed and really controls, where the utilities go and sidewalk width. And more importantly, they're trying to add more input and things that cover street trees, shaded sidewalk areas. And so this is why we've taken a strong interest in getting input on this. They had the first survey that went out, said, yes, people, highest percentage said they wanted more shaded sidewalks. So now they're getting into more refinement. So we're asking, all of our members to please go take the survey. It's really just asking two questions, what do you like about this and what can we do better in each of these key areas? Now, some of them have to do with maybe sewage or drainage, may not have much input, but certainly in the areas of sidewalks and trees, we encourage people to really take their time to look at that. Thank you.
Patrick, do you have a sense of how many people actually take these surveys?
That would be up for the city to tell us.
I believe the last one, they indicated they had 123 responses. So.
Again, these are things that if we could push these, I know with our reps, that we just push them along.
There was a very, very clear indication of, as Patrick said, interest in walkability, pedestrian safety, shade. I mean, I think the people in this room, it's almost a little bit predictable. So, okay. And then health and homelessness. Peter is not here today, and I don't believe there is an update on that. On the health and safety, I can tell you I've been involved with the, as I mentioned before, the Community Watch. That's a generic name. And again, this is somewhat at a request by the chief and the police department that DSCA explore with them. What Danny Robbins is the officer that we're liaising with to see what kind of pilot program. We've had one meeting, we plan to have another meeting about, and we're talking about where do we target for the initial efforts in here. Now, I should add that I personally view this as parallel with, you may recall, a little over a year ago, the police budget was increased to include 8 additional foot patrol officers, right? So the money is in the budget. Meetings with the chiefs, the issue has been the recruitment of these individuals, the training and so forth. The patrol zones are to be downtown and the Rosemary. And the chief, as recently as a week ago, has given I'm going to call it a soft commitment to have this in place by the end of the year. There are 17 additional police recruits that will be graduating in the next few weeks. There were 10 that graduated a couple months ago. So if I'm not mistaken, the number is the number of police officers will have increased about 20% in the last year, 18 months. And the idea again is to deploy these folks, in downtown. And I see it as kind of in harmony with this community group and effort and their presence. I live in the Rosemary right down the street and happen to see a police person ride by on a bicycle. So I don't know if they're out, for some initial patrols or not, but hopefully there'll be something here. There was a police incident on right by Planned Parenthood a few nights ago. It turns out Pat Robinson reports that there's 2 females in an altercation and one took a shot, fired a weapon. I don't know all the details, but it's regarded as a isolated incident, but it did occur.
She's been arrested.
Yeah, there's been an arrest made at this point, so first shooting episode in the Rosemary that I can recall. Moving on, transportation, Roger is away, let me give that one too. Boulevard of the Arts and 41 has been identified as a real concern of our organization and others, particularly with the Bay Park getting increasingly activated. And an email exchange, Nick Patel, just last week, has kind of made a commitment that they're proceeding to have designs done for that in the coming months. And it's hopefully going to have budgeted money for an improvement there in the FY24 kind of budget. So there's kind of a commitment to implement an improved design. There already are improved signage and no U-turns, and they've done some improvements, but additional calming efforts and safety efforts are. But it looks like the attention of Nick and others has been gained on this, and they are kind of moving ahead. Zoning committee, community workshops I talked about. Again, the limited community workshops, for lack of a better word, and further discussions hope to be had. It was recommended by the planning board, and it looks like that will go to the commission, I believe, in August now. There's going to be a workshop in July that talks about the implications of the state live local legislation, and then followed in August, if I'm not mistaken, by this bonus. And then everybody wants to understand what the implications of the live local thing are and what we want to do locally. So that is moving ahead.
David, if we could, I would like to discuss that, get some further input as if we can proceed to have a meeting with city staff.
On the community workshop.
On community workshops, I would say community workshops for bonus density.
Okay.
Catch it in that. Because we know we don't get community workshops for any site plan development downtown. And so when this was before the planning board, Steve Cover came before the planning board and said, well, the reason he was not proposing community workshops now in May of 2023, despite the fact that in May of 2022, not only Steve, but 3 others from the planning department and the city manager stated that they were in favor of community workshops under the new ZTAs for attainable housing units. And especially if you're going to say, hey, here's what you have by right, Mr. Development, but if you want to quadruple the population impact on the local community, maybe we should get community input. And having talked to a developer, actually a planner, that gets hired by developers, we said, well, first of all, the objections were given is that it's a timing impact, it's going to delay development, and there's a cost to it. Well, in talking with developer planners, they say, well, the best time to have community input is not after submittal to the DRC, but at the end of conceptual design and before is the beginning of engineering design. They don't make a submittal until they completed their engineering design. That's where you lay out where every sewage pipe is going to go, and if you make changes later on that, that is costly and adds significant time to it. So the best time is at conceptual, when they also would have a conceptual landscape plan. What trees would be taken out, what trees would be put in. That's always a concern. Where a sidewalk is going to go. Those are generally part of the conceptual plan. And were that put together, and in fact, as they're developing plans, they also said there's a city staff needs 45 days. It's a request to the clerk or something to schedule a community workshop because we have to notice. The developers in their per chart, Gantt chart planning, project planning process can say, hey, 45 days before conceptual design is complete, let's send a notice to the clerk requesting a community workshop. And then as they get forward and work towards, or maybe 60 days out, make the request. And so have things ready. and you make the presentation, and you get the feedback for that. The point being that investing in a project for a new set of criteria. In the zoning text, there's a lot of new things that are going in there, and a lot of the answers that were received was that, well, the nuances will be defined in the table housing agreement that will be developed for each project. However, the table housing agreement will be signed by the city manager. Not a DRC review of the table housing agreement for that project. So any particulars will be in that project, that agreement there, that really doesn't go through a public review process. So the only way to be sure that public input is on the table for even the city manager to review it is to have it documented in the community workshop minutes or notes. And so that would be the reason, and I see it as a way to help the city staff protect their investment in this process, because we want this to be successful. We don't want to be sitting 5 or 10 years down the road saying, well, we tried that and that didn't work. So I think it's a protection without, and the impact is they could do it timing wise, so there's very little getting delay. And the cost is community workshops are run by the developers at their facility. They can do it on Zoom too. So I think that's a way that they can do it without impacting the cost or the time, adding time.
Well, since the Live Local Act preempts local rules with respect to height, density, and development approvals, do we know whether the state is going to promulgate any rules about that would affect the approval process?
I sure don't know, and I think that's the reason.
Wouldn't it be better then to wait until we find out, and we're going to find out soon, before we start lobbying for something that we may not be able to get, period, because of the preemption by the state?
Okay, I think that's a good point. Let's, I will keep that in mind, and if we have a preliminary engagement.
In the wind if we
Yeah.
if we do something that the state's not going to allow us to do.
Good point. Okay. Moving along, Bay Park Conservancy.
I really don't have any.
No, okay, they're moving.
Shade structures are going up and coming down. Ready to go back up again.
What's that?
The shade structures on the nest went up, and I understood they're being taken back down, and then they're being put back up again.
There were lights put up last week
Yeah.
on the shade structure.
They put up a shade thing for a while.
It looked great. There must have been something wrong. I don't know. Okay. CCNA, I really, I think I sent around a little report. I was there on Saturday, other than I think what was discussed, we discussed, or it's not that important. Rosemary Association has an updated website. It's Nat Palagar's fingerprints are all over that. It's very much improved. We're having a community meeting next week with parking is becoming an increasing issue in the Rosemary. There's going to be 6 or 7 new businesses opening in the Rosemary in the coming 6 or 8 months. 4 or so, 5 of them are restaurants. We're on the horizon is a parking issue, and try and see what can be done. Maybe 300 new restaurant seats, so a reopened Overton and new restaurants. So
What's the date
another
of the meeting? Community meeting, what's the date of it?
the 15th, a week from tomorrow at 5:30 Fogartyville. And so Broxton Harvey, the new general manager of parking, is our guest. Candy Peterson will be giving an update on the Rosemary Park, which we hope is 5 months away from a ribbon cutting. I won't believe it when I see it, but progress is being, and FP&L representative will be there to talk about their efforts in the Rosemary on undergrounding and hardening. That's all I've got on that. Platinum member, have we got?
Yeah, we've got Annika.
Oh, got hi.
All right, we'll go there.
Okay.
Terry's not here.
Hey everyone, I'm Anya Comantius. I'm with Berg Simpson. I do their marketing. We are a construction defect litigation firm. Since we're supposed to bring something new to meetings, I just want to mention, because we're going through this, like to amend decks for our cases, we have to collect votes, and it takes mailing and calling, and it takes a lot of time and money. So with like new technology, sometimes declarations will allow for you to have electronic voting. And this is in the 720 Florida statute law, but it's good to talk with your general counsel as we don't do that, but you can see what the requirements are for that. So yeah, that's a little something good to know. Let's do the platinum members. Paul with ServPro.
Sure. So thank you for having me, everybody. Last week or last month, when I came to the board meeting, I told you that I had some exciting news, but I couldn't share it with you. Well, I'm able to share it with you now. So ServPro of North Sarasota, our franchise, was approached by ServPro Corporate to take over the operations of ServPro of South Sarasota. So we agreed to do that after some negotiation. That deal has been consummated. We are now ServPro of Sarasota, which is fabulous for us. A lot of work to integrate the operations together. You guys don't know about all the details there. One thing I will tell you is that in having their team work with our team, we found some substandard performances, and so we're retraining that staff to bring them up to our service levels, and that's part of the reason why corporate approached us to take them over. So we're very happy about that. It's just in time for hurricane season. We just entered that window, right? No, I do not go for hurricanes. I'm with you guys. If I never see another hurricane, I'll be happy. But preparing for the inevitable is important. I read an article the other day about a bank who was talking with one of their large associations who had weathered the storm pretty well. Like many others, they had a lot of downed trees, a lot of unforeseen costs, but not a lot of property damage. But the message was the same, and that was this. They couldn't get the resources that they needed as quickly as they wanted. And the learning takeaway that they came out was establish relationships with several vendors in each of the key domains, if you will, emergency services being one of those. So if your organization already has, a relationship with one, I encourage you to go strike out and get a relationship with one other, maybe two others. And we're happy to be that second or third party. So with that, I'll turn it back over. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you. Let's do Fred Grady. He's a gold member.
Greetings, along with my silent partner, Don Fitz, whom you know better than I. Just wrapped up our 25th anniversary, completely remodeled strategically. We are still going to have assisted living, but we're getting more focused on independent living. And to kick that off, my colleague said to me, come on, get with it. You have PTSD from which side? Next Wednesday afternoon, we're going to host a medical marijuana seminar, which has become quite popular. We'll have our MD, our cornerstone consultant, and no samples. But anyway, you're more than welcome to come. I've got brochures on that. And just again, a pleasure to be with you and hi to Doug.
What time? Get there early.
Don, if you want to introduce yourself, please go ahead.
He's multitasking in the office, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
All right.
We can go back for it at the end.
What about Steve Shaw?
Steve's right there.
Thanks, Alinda. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Steve Shaw from Hot Wire Communications. We are the largest in the country independently owned provider of internet and television services exclusively to HOAs and condo associations. Our news this month is very exciting. We have actually begun construction of a state-of-the-art fiber trunk that will run from Bradenton down to the foot of the Ringling Bridge, down 41. It will provide state-of-the-art fiber optics to every condo association that would like to talk to us along the way in terms of bandwidth, in terms of speed. We are working diligently and hope to have approval to actually be going over the bridge and providing services to Lido and Longboat, which we're told is much needed. We do have some clients out there, but having our own fiber trunk will obviously give us a lot more bandwidth, a lot more flexibility, and provide, quite frankly, residents of Lido and Longboat with a much needed alternative. There was a very limited supply of fiber optic services on the island. So very excited about that. If you are interested in talking more, you can reach me through the DSCA website. Thanks very much.
How about south of the bridge?
South Bridge, we are not extending, however, we do have the ability to interconnect into our network.
We lost that. Oh, well, that's it though. That's it.
Okay, thank you, folks. I see, this is a time for member representative comments, and I'm seeing some member reps. Lisa, you're here, recognize you first.
Thank you. Lisa Schmidt with the Regency House. And I had a quick question for Ken, because I was curious about the new performance arts center. Is there a budget or a cost estimate that's been given to those?
It's too early.
Okay.
It's too early. There's not even a concept yet.
Okay.
But the city is talking in the range of 300 million, 250 to 300, somewhere in there. But it's much too early. There's not even a design on the table.
But it would be helpful for the designers to have a range or an idea.
Well,
Otherwise, the
that's why
sky's the
they've been
limit.
given that
Yeah.
number by the commission. Yeah, and the foundation, and there's sort of there's some parameters like 2,300 seat, 2,200 seat theater with a smaller 400 seat theater. So there are some parameters that have been laid out, but it's much too early for a cost estimate.
One of the elephants in the room, Fran Lambert, I see you are on the call, and I apologize. I tried to reach you to have a discussion before tonight. You're our member rep from 1260 Palm, and I was wondering, do you have, I understand there might have been a meeting with some residents in the area a night or two ago. Is there any new information that you might have to share with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I do not know what came of that meeting the other night. I just sent a message to Bob, our manager, asking him to call me. There is another meeting tonight. What they are trying to do is obviously get signatures. They're trying to do some protesting. And they have signatures from many, many buildings in the area. You know, I don't know exactly what came of that meeting, as I said on Monday night, but I did ask the question.
Okay, my understanding is that the matter is before the DRC again on the 21st. And the practice of the DRC is that the advance materials for that would need to come out about a week in advance. So in rough approximately a week from now, one would be seeing specifically what communications have been back and forth between the developer and the city staff.
Right. And I do know that we are always asked to attend these meetings, not because we can be heard, because we can't, but just to show that we are not for the project, and we do attend all of these meetings.
Okay. Other folks, I'm seeing one other matter, as long as we're talking about buildings, I I see Peter Blanton is on the call, and Abe from the BLVD. I just saw a communication that the one park matter, first is the Florida Department of Law Enforcement has not concluded their investigation into the matter. And I believe Marlin has set Friday as a deadline, that if that matter has not been concluded or isn't moving forward, that the planning board will not be taking up one park at their July meeting. So there's a couple days left to see what the police folks do about this or not. But it looks like the matter, there's a chance it will be moved even further out. I know that's of interest to us and some of our member firms. Alan, I see Rosemary's on the call, and I see Peter from the Ritz Quay. Any other member reps with any other comments or questions? Okay, with that, we are 2 minutes over. Our next meeting will be July 5th. And I have a preliminary indication from Lucia Panica that she will be our guest speaker. That can't go to the bank with that at the moment, but she's in a preliminary way confirmed. It'll be ironically 2 years since she last spoke to us at the time she was promoted. So we're hopefully that Lucia could be here because it would be a very timely kind of time to hear her remarks. So with that said, let's call this adjourned and open some wine. Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you.